Hello everyone and welcome to Diamond's Craft where I make things. My name is Sarah. I'm back with another video, not quite a Christmas video this year, but a video nonetheless. I've been making this doll for a little while now, about a year maybe. It just so happens to coincide with the animated version of Campaign 2, the Mighty Nein. And without any further ado, I'm just going to get straight into the video. I am using my first G3 doll. This Lavorre is super cute and I like her body shape a lot. First things first, I need to undress her and wipe her face with acetone. The hair plugs aren't glued into these new ones, they are melted, but it's easy enough to get out and no gross glue bits. A win. As Jester is a little sapphire and Lavorre is not, I need to change her body colour to blue. I was going to do this pop and style and have lots of layers of pan pastel, but I actually don't have the patience for that. So I did hear there was a way to turn pan pastels into paint. I did read somewhere you can with isopropyl alcohol and water, so I tried it and it works. It's just not super smooth like this. I had to put the mixture on first and then get the pigment from the pan. It does cover the surface fast. And whilst it doesn't look great now, I add a layer of white over the top of this blue and it smooths everything and makes it closer to the colour I want. As you can see with these hands, there is a big difference. I can then add details and cover it with a layer of matte varnish, and I'm very pleased with that. Now for a face. I cover her head the same way and then get to work by filling in the whites of her eyes for the general shape. I did this face up over a year ago by now and I really do love it. Jester is a very happy character, as anyone who's watched Campaign 2 will know. She radiates positive energy and is really hard not to love. So she needs a sweet and pleasant expression. I should have given her little fangs as I gave her an open mouth smile, but I guess I missed it. Got to make sure those pupils are in line. Seeing the doll this close up reminds me just how tiny it all is. Of course I know, but my eyes aren't great these days, so I need those magnifying things jewelers wear. And, oh, a little slip. Let me just cover that. There we go. And I had this urge to add a darker fade to the outside of her lips. I just like that style. I think this may be one of the first times I've decided to paint the eye whites to make them stand out more. Probably not, but you know. With this face, she needs big, bright eyes, and I thought it was definitely necessary. You can see the difference it makes right away, and I am glad I made that call. The colour of her eyes was wrong, so I covered that up and then went in with a pink so that it would blend and make a nice purple colour. Her eyelashes are a bit wild, but I like that a lot. It gives her an innocent sort of look. And her hair will be blue also, so I just covered her scalp with that colour. A few catch lights and highlights for her eyes and she's all done. She is super cute. So, as I say, I started making Jester over a year ago and in true me fashion, I didn't film any of the hair application or making up the horns. Go me! After 4 years of this, you'd think I'd be better at it. But we move on and we're at the clothes making stage. I have the basics here. She doesn't have a particularly complicated outfit, but there are a lot of parts. She's going to have a corset type thing, so all I need to do here is the topmost part and the sleeves. I gather a strip of fabric and fit it around her chest. Then I will be gluing the corset on in the end. For her sleeves, in all of the fan art I've seen, they are super long. And on doll scale, nothing really drapes super well unless it's fine and light. But I also need to give her this flowery pattern and it's easier to draw on cotton. This one was too small, so I made a bigger one. And to save my fingers, I tend to glue and press the seams down. Then I can just wrap it around her arm, stitch once to get the size, and then once that's all done and turned, it'll just stay where it is, and having them separate gives me freedom of movement. D&D references. I do the same pattern on her skirt and press down all the seams there. I then take this nice blue fabric for the overskirt. She's from a place of luxury, so I feel like that's quite fitting. I don't make a new skirt, even though I probably should have. I just pop the blue pieces over the white, so we'll be able to see the pattern on the underskirt. Again, fan art has a lot of variations. Some are full blue skirts with a little white poking out. And then some are just with a blue piece on top. I went with this, but I think it works fine. I won't lie, I completely forgot about her tail. So, I carved a small hole in her back for some magnets to go in. Transporting a doll with a permanent tail is a nightmare, so this helps on a practical level. Once it's big enough, I glue that in with strong glue, and I can make a tail. The first one was great, but with a new oven I haven't tested, I got the temperature wrong and it fell apart. So I made her a new one out of Milliput, and I won't get into the woes of the tail making, of which there are many. It's now time for embellishments. Her corset is getting some straps on the front. And to make one of her belts, I'm braiding 3 bits of cord together and gluing that in place. She needs other things I'm not willing to sculpt, so small, and this is where 3D printing comes in handy. Creatily helped with this one as they recently sent me their new Halot X1 to try out. And help it did! I needed new hands and a model for Sprinkle. So I took myself off to Cults and bought some files, and the Halot X1 printed them really well. This printer raises the tank rather than lowering the build plate, and you can filter the resin in through the AFU feed unit, which blew my tiny mind. I also really like that the build plate has handles you can move to release the prints. Game changer. And I also really like the drip tray. It fits so perfectly in place and there's just 0 chance of it spilling resin everywhere. On the whole, great machine. Thank you Creatily for letting me try it out. So now we have our Sprinkle, some shoe bases I modelled for this occasion, and some new hands. One was to hold his spiritual weapon really well. Sprinkle is a red weasel, and I also see the fan art depicting him as like really red. However, I always took red to mean ginger. Now he's definitely on the darker orange side, and I tried my best to paint him as realistically as possible. I am super glad that I printed him a little larger than he should be, because I would not be able to paint him at all. I give him a little pink nose and paw beans and little white claws. His eyes are green, for reasons. I do change this bow later. I paint her hands and tail to match her body. And now that they're all done, I can move on to her spiritual weapon. I roll out some polymer clay and turn it into a spiral. Turns out it was a bit too thin to get the handle in without warping it, so I did it again. I used liquid Sculpey to fix the handle in, and I got a little paranoid everything would unravel in the oven. You know, as you do. So I covered it all with some liquid Sculpey. This turned out so good, until I had to paint it. Now it's not bad per se, but it is not how I envisioned this spiritual lollipop. Instead, I found old Fimo, added a bunch of liquid Sculpey to stick it all together because it was flaky as heck. I roll out a white snake and a pink snake, and then I can roll them together, and yes, this is exactly how I wanted it to look. So I cover it with some shimmery mica powder to make it look more magical, and some UV resin over the top to make it shiny. I added glitter to UV resin and covered the handle. And then it was time to add the bow. I went with this blue because contrast, but it's also all I had. I need to make her green cloak. And thankfully, Lavorre has a little cloak I could base Jester's off. Score 1 for me. Fairly basic. Hemmed and added a little hood, and that's all done. Now she needs shoes. I had a little masking tape pattern for this type of foot. And instead of using glue and a prayer, I actually sewed these bad boys together, and it worked out amazingly. No mess, just straightforward. Then I can glue on the bases I printed and painted earlier. There are so many details on Jester I kept forgetting to make, but I have made a sickle before. I just sculpted that out of polymer clay along with a couple of little charms I kept seeing on her fan art. I then decided she needed a vial of something, so I fashioned a little glass bottle holder and I fill it with diamond dust later. Cleric things. So all of her little pieces are done. I have a belt, bottle for components. I made a little lollipop, a bag and her sickle, and of course, Sprinkle and her spiritual weapon. The cape can probably house Sprinkle in the hood. And with that, she's all done. And here she is, all finished. I absolutely love how she turned out. She's so cute. Just everything about her is so cute. When we were doing the photo shoot, I just kept saying, oh my god, she's so cute. She is. She's adorable. Look at her. Next time, or in some time in the future, I will be making her a little journal, which I did not do for some reason, and that's like staple Jester. She's a character that I absolutely love, that I think everyone absolutely loves, and I had a great time making her. She's just so fun, she's so cute, and yeah, I love Critical Role and I love all the characters, but Jester's pretty special. Please go and watch The Mighty Nein. If you have no idea what The Mighty Nein is, it is on Amazon Prime and you can go and watch it if you don't want to watch the whole of Critical Role doing the campaign, but I would recommend that too. If you like this video, you can comment that you liked the video. In the spirit of the Traveller, I will let everyone not be a dick in the comments, but draw a dick in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this. If you did, like, subscribe, ring my bell, do all that, If you are a dick in the comments and you don't draw a dick in the comments, the Traveller will not like that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Technically, I didn't say technically.